Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, depending on where in this world you are watching us from today. You are watching The Future of Fundraising, Empowering Gift Officers to Do More with Less. I'm Amy Gilstein, your Field Marketing Manager here at Cloud for Good. During our time together today, your lines will be muted, but we encourage you to ask questions via the Q&A. Depending on time, we will answer your questions live on the call, or we will follow up with you after the webinar if you ask non-anonymously. This webinar will be recorded and shared via email and on our YouTube page. Next slide, please. Thanks, Colleen. I just want to introduce today's speakers. You guys are very lucky. You got a great crew of folks here. We have Ryan Blake, who is our Solution Engineer Director here at Cloud for Good, and Colleen Carroll, who is the Community and Events Lead at Double the Donation. I will actually just let them take it away and continue introducing themselves. Thank you guys for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. I'll just jump in and start, and I'll pass to you, Colleen, if that's all right. So I'm Ryan Blake, as Amy mentioned. I'm the Director of Solution Engineering at Cloud for Good. We are a premier Salesforce implementation partner, and I'll go more into that in a second. But really, I've been working at the intersection of technology and the impact sector for over 8 years now. Direct with the technology, and before that, actually working in higher ed with higher ed and nonprofit organizations. So that's me in a nutshell. But Colleen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen Carroll. I'm the Community and Events Lead here at Double the Donation, which means I'm very much involved with all of our educational content related to workplace fundraising. And I'm going to dig really deep into what I mean when I say workplace fundraising there. But I am involved with webinars, conferences, blogs, and things like that. So I love speaking with nonprofit professionals. One of my very favorite parts of my job is I host a discussion group series where I hop on with nonprofit and higher ed professionals every week to hear what is happening on the ground for them when it comes to workplace fundraising.
Awesome. Just let's do a quick overview of kind of our organization. So, Cloud for Good, as I mentioned before, we're a premier Salesforce implementation partner, trusted by 25% of the top 100 largest nonprofit organizations, as well as a large number of R1 research institutions in the US, which I'm really excited about and has been really thrilling to be a part of this organization. We have highly experienced staff. I'm excited to be here today because of our engagements with Double the Donation and the amount of clients that we see, particularly in the nonprofit sector, regularly asking about it and how it integrates and works with Salesforce, but also knowing that it's a regular part of their process in terms of what workplace giving can really produce. We have a very deep relationship and partnership with Salesforce, often leading some of the charge in what that future technology looks like. And then we also have our own innovation arm and sector. We are really working to reduce risk in what it looks like to be on the Salesforce platform, but also recognizing that you have multiple solutions that you might be engaging with to really create your comprehensive fundraising or program opportunities. So some of those are our IP-backed assets. And we have a slide that kind of talks about our three different assets that we have developed, all under cloud names, being Cumulus, Cirrus, and Stratus. Cumulus is really our foray into making sure that when organizations or clients are going into a solution like Nonprofit Cloud or what is now named Agentforce Nonprofit, they have everything that they need ready-made already out of the gate that we can then configure to make really usable for them. So two of them are, one is around fundraising and one is around grant making. The fundraising one, including things that actually align with Double Donation in terms of matching gifts and being able to easily find where there are potential opportunities to really kind of flourish with some additional partnerships that might be there. Cirrus is all about fundraising agents, and this is about creating some of those personalized experiences, particularly for those frontline fundraisers and finding those emerging prospects who are maybe making a gift. And we want to be able to reach out to them, and it's elevating them in terms of where they're sitting as a prospect, finding some of those needles in the haystacks. And then our Stratus asset is really focused on being able to think about those migrations. So if you are on Salesforce today, maybe using NPSP or the Nonprofit Success Pack, how do we make sure that we can migrate you and keep you in a space where you can continue business continuity and accelerate that time to value in terms of what a data migration, metadata migration, all of those things that we think about when an implementation comes in, how do we make sure we do that in a really efficient and seamless manner? So that was a lot about Cloud for Good. Pauline, tell us more about Double Donation for those who may not be familiar.
Happy to. And I do just want to shout out, I love all the cloud names. I feel like I'm in the weather unit in science class, and it makes me
Yeah.
really happy. So, to introduce Double the Donation a little bit, we are an employer matching gift and workplace fundraising automation tool. So, we are helping nonprofits and schools get more employer matching gift dollars, volunteer grant dollars, payroll gift dollars through some tools that you can get set up very quickly. So I'm going to kind of throw some information about that throughout the presentation, but it's things like streamlined search fields, some automated emails, integrations into your platform, including Salesforce integration, and then our big database where we have information about what is Home Depot's program, what is Verizon's program when it comes to their corporate giving program, so that you don't have to go and do the Google search yourself to figure out that information. So that's a little bit about us and what's happening at Double the Donation.
Awesome. And as we're thinking about why we brought this webinar together and why we are partnering, we know that there's this evolving role of the gift officer. So when we look at that, we know their expectations are changing. We know they're evolving, and we know that there's a lot of opportunities that are sitting kind of, I would say, right under the hood of where we can see additional opportunity. But before we really get into that, right, it's thinking about how that is scaling. Um, Donors are expecting more of those personalized experiences. They want to know and be able to understand. They want to know that we recognize who they are, what their engagements have been, but also be able to start to leverage things in a more efficient manner so that as a gift officer, we are not wasting our time. Wasting is maybe the wrong word. We are being efficient with our time in terms of what can we know, what do we know about this person? How do we make sure that we are leveraging that? Thinking about how AI can help highlight some of those insights or doing predictive scoring on somebody who maybe did a workplace gift is now maybe more likely to be able to engage in other varieties or fashions. All of that has an opportunity to really be evolving. But I also know that with nonprofits, and we particularly been hearing this a lot more within the US, is they, and more than I would say than we have, maybe have in past. It's always been with nonprofits, and you can feel free to argue this with me, Colleen. But they've always been asked to do more with less. We know that a lot of their budgets are not going directly to operations. So how do we make sure that the tools that we are investing in are able to really accelerate what it looks like from a gift officer standpoint, from our fundraising campaigns and our appeal programs, to ensure that we are actually generating and driving the revenue to make the impact that we are really trying to achieve and look for. So that has just not only accelerated, but I think AI leverages another, adds another conversation to it. We're not focusing on today. But Colleen, do you have anything you want to add in this?
I mean, I think I'll just plus one. You're busy, there's so much to do, and we want to make it as easy as possible for you with these tools. So I feel like any strategy, any tool, my goal is that it makes your life easier.
Yeah. So you just to kind of as we get into this and hearing more about Double Nation, you keep bringing up the phrase workplace giving.
Yes.
In my role, I have heard that used in a variety of terms.
Mhm.
I'm even thinking about my own, being in a workplace at a place of work where you can actually have part of your paycheck going to uh, uh, the institution or somewhere else you're working. I'm just curious, how are you at Double Nation? How are you guys defining or thinking about what is workplace giving?
I love this. You've set me up so well here, Ryan. When I think about workplace giving, I'm thinking about any program that is put in place by an employer that is getting their employees to give back to the community in some way, or they themselves giving back to the community in some way. So here I have my little, I don't know, bubble chart is I guess what I'll call it, of all the different programs that we fit under this kind of corporate funding umbrella. And I do use, I would say, workplace and corporate and employer somewhat interchangeably here. But I do want to highlight that this is really a growing space in the giving world of nonprofits. It's one that we expect to continue to see grow and change and shift, and it's pretty exciting. So my, as I said, goal today is to give you all some strategies for targeting these relatively lucrative spaces. And I'll again mention how Double the Donation can help, but I also want to give you strategies whether or not you're using Double the Donation, because there's a lot you can do to target these funds. And very quickly, I have a rule that I like never go too far into a webinar without actually giving definitions of what I'm talking about with these various programs, because you would not believe the number of conversations that I get about halfway through, and I realize we are talking about two different things.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do my definitions really fast. I do also just want to shout out that I do have the Q&A tab open on my screen. So if anyone has questions as I'm going through any of this, please feel free to start asking them. I will keep my eye out on that. And I know we have some time at the end as well. All right. So when I say matching gifts, I mean when a company matches the donation their employees make to an eligible nonprofit or school, effectively doubling the donation. This is not to be confused with what I call the other type of matching gift, which or the challenge matching gift, which is where it's like an anonymous donor has given $100,000, but very valid other form of fundraising, not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about matching gifts today. So let's get that out of the way early. And maybe we'll say this as lesson number one. When you're talking about matching gifts, never assume that your donor knows what you're talking about. Always make sure you are explaining to them exactly what you're asking. Because the cool thing about matching gifts is you are not asking them to take out their credit card and give again. You're asking them to fill out some paperwork to double their donation to a cause they clearly already care about because they made that initial donation. So it's one of the reasons why I love matching gifts. And just to give an idea of the scale of these programs and the potential impact they can have on your organization, 26 million plus individuals in the US, or 10% of the US workforce, are eligible for employer matching gifts. So, your supporter base, there are people in there that are eligible. It is almost like a guarantee, I feel like, because of the number of people that are eligible. Another form of workplace giving that I'm going to highlight today are volunteer grants. So, this is when a company matches the hours their employee volunteers at an organization with a financial contribution. So, effectively turning a volunteer hour into dollars in the door for your organization. This is also sometimes known as dollars for doers programs.
This
And
that
oh, yeah,
Colleen in particular, that dollars for doers, we're hearing more organizations are leaning into that,
yeah.
and have actually asked us about how is that supporting the Salesforce platform, which is really exciting that we're able to innovate and think about how that can work to make sure those things are being tracked so that those dollars can get awarded based on their volunteer efforts.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm seeing the same. I feel like these are only going to become more impactful as
Mhm.
programs and more organizations are going to launch them. So, just to give a little bit of idea of how these programs work, it can vary between company to company because again, that's another one of the challenge of workplace fundraising is everyone does it a little differently. But you have programs like the Verizon program I've highlighted here, where for every hour their employee volunteers, that's a $25 donation. Or the example here from CVS, where they do it kind of in buckets, where for every 10 hours, that is equal to a certain donation. But again, hopefully, this is giving you an idea that there are a lot of dollars behind these programs that could be making their way into your organization's hands. And the very final form I'm going to kind of quickly define is payroll giving. This one's probably the easiest one to get just from the name, but it's when you can give directly from your paycheck. It's sort of like a monthly gift where it's a slightly set it and forget it model. And it's something that a nonprofit can kind of expect to receive regularly. And this is, again, a really huge program out there in the US. One of the exciting things is that two-thirds of employers that have a payroll giving program automatically match their employees' deductions. And so that means that you're automatically getting that doubled donation. And $173 million goes through payroll giving each year. Okay, so if there are all these programs, why are we not all rolling around in matching gift and volunteer grant and payroll gift dollars? Like these programs exist, so many people are eligible, the dollars should be getting to us. The issue is low donor awareness. 78% of eligible donors are unaware of the opportunity or how to go about the process. And that is really because 81% of companies do not include adequate info on these programs in easily accessible places. People might be told about it in their employee onboarding, they're super excited, they forget about it 6 months later when they make their gift to your organization. And that is a problem because 4 to 7 billion in matching gift dollars alone goes unclaimed annually. Huge amount of money that could be making its way into the hands of nonprofits, but it instead is just kind of sitting there and waiting. And I have a little bit of a fear that if we don't access these funds, they're going to start going away. Because why would companies continue to allocate these funds this way if no one is using them? So I see this as a little bit of a big group project on all of our behalf in the nonprofit sector to access these funds so that these programs only grow and that we get these dollars into the hands of people that can do really amazing work with it.
That number is like I don't know how else to describe it. Like it takes my breath away.
Yeah, it's
Um,
shocking.
right in the amount of dollars that are there, and really thinking about what is like, how do we incorporate that into our strategy?
Mhm.
Right. I think that to me becomes the question of the dollars are there, people are donating, have these opportunities. There seems like missed opportunities. How do we strategize around that?
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope all of this has kind of given you, our audience, an idea of why I think this matters and why we're having a webinar on this today. So now I want to give you some things you can actually do to increase effort. And then going with our kind of title of today's session, not do it manually, but have it set in place so that these are dollars that are just coming your way kind of as it goes through the standard process. So, first and foremost, is just having information easily accessible to supporters. Do you have a place on your website that explains these programs and how they work and why they're important and what impact they have on your mission? I mean, again, you can do some really interesting things. I know the St. and Jude team, they have a whole section of their matching gift page that's like your $50 gift, which becomes 100 with your matching gift, can do this for a patient of ours, and it like says that that's this many infusion bags or something like that. Be really concrete with how this is doubling the impact on your all's mission. So having a place on your website where people can easily check for information and that you can direct people to as you are maybe talking about these programs more is going to be super helpful, having an FAQ page essentially. So that's step number one. The next piece is figuring out who in your donor and supporter base is eligible for these programs. And the key information with that is knowing where your supporters work, do they offer incentive programs, and how often are they donating or volunteering? Like, are they really eligible, or do they give a $10 gift once a year type program? And the way you gather employment information is, again, actually really easy. It is just asking for employment information on your donation and volunteer registration forms. This is a time where people are already expecting to be giving you information. Just ask them where they work. I say just, but I do have a few quick best practices for that. Big thing is always make it optional. We never want someone to not volunteer or not donate because they got weirded out by that question. So make it optional. The other thing is explain why you're asking. To me and you, it might be pretty obvious, but to someone who's not in this fundraising world, it might be a little bit odd to them that they're just trying to sign up to walk a dog at a dog shelter and you're asking them where they work. So saying something like, see if your company will match your donation will give a better shot of people actually filling that out and giving you that information that's going to really open your workplace fundraising doors. All right, and just in case anyone's curious, we see that 73% of donors will actually use these search fields when provided with them. Again, this is the double the donation search field, but you could also just do a plain text box, and I would imagine we would have a similar rate. So again, with people changing jobs all the time, this is intensely valuable to have them reporting every time they donate about where they are working. Once we have that information, we can start talking to them about their eligibility and reminding them that these programs exist. So here are two kind of generic examples of what a confirmation page could look like, where if they tell you they work at Home Depot, you can start being like, great, here's Home Depot's program, here's the minimum, here's the maximum, here's the form you can go fill out. This is a great way. People are already engaged with your mission. They've just donated, they've just shown that they care about you. Take advantage of this really valuable real estate and let them know that these programs exist. This could also be a place that if you just built out that very nice place on your website that's talking about workplace fundraising, you can link to them on this page. Be like, great, thank you so much for donating. Learn more about how you can double your gift or double the impact of your volunteer hour. Could be a really valuable place to add that.
This, just as you talk about
Yeah.
this in the confirmation page, to me, that also speaks to kind of what we have helped organizations with and thinking about how do we create those marketing campaigns or journeys to say, like,
Hmm.
thank you for your donation. They meet a certain criteria, like their organization has a matching gift program, to be able to now remind them that and get specific content, but also be able to start pulling that up so that they can advocate for more people in their workplace to do the same or to follow kind of the same steps that they are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those internal advocates are hugely valuable. And that's another what great reason to know where your people work so that you know, oh, yes, if we want to get the crew at Home Depot involved, we have a contact. We have someone that we know loves us that's gonna get involved. Amazing. I do just want to quickly shout out having a workplace giving database. So, again, this is if you're like, how in the world do I know what Home Depot's program is? How in the world do I know what Disney's program is? This is where a database can help, where you can go in and search, and you can also have it integrated into your tools so that this is really easily accessible information. That said, if you are not ready for a database, there's still things you can do. Maybe you look up what the top 10 companies are within your supporter base and you do the manual research and you have that listed on your page. So you know you have a lot of Delta employees that donate to your organization. You know you have a lot of other big companies maybe in your area. Doing that research and having that info available so that if they end up on that page, you can be like, hey, Delta employees, reminder, here's your program, can be a really big like first step to take when it comes to these programs. So that's kind of talking about the actual donation process. I wanted to share a little bit about following up and continuing to communicate with people. We see that some people will get involved right there on that confirmation page. They will get excited and they're going to get their gift matched, but people also get distracted. They are busy, their life is busy. Maybe their kid ran in screaming and they got out of the page and they just never remember to go back. You can actually remind people of that they're eligible or that they might be eligible and they should check their eligibility. Because remember, these are supporters that care about you. They have already shown that they care about you. They've already given a gift or made a volunteer commitment. And so reminding them that there's a way that they can support your mission without any additional dollars coming out of their credit card is a huge win. So we can remind people after the donation. And if you're wondering about how often to remind people, we suggest a 3 email cadence for donations in particular. So that would be 1 hour after the donation, 3 days after the donation, and 30 days. The reason why we keep it in a 30-day window is that is, first of all, kind of people's memory, where they're like, yeah, I do remember that gift I made 30 days ago, where if we're talking 6 months, they might be a little less likely to remember. But also, the way these programs work is there are expiration dates. And so we want to make sure we're not missing out because of a lag between the initial gift and when the donor is reminded to get their gift matched. So a 30-day window is a pretty safe bet that there hasn't been any lack of eligibility anymore.
Can I,
Yeah.
is it fair to say that in that cadence, it could potentially be incorporated with their current, with anybody's current kind of follow-up communication? I'm thinking that follow-up thank you is maybe automated already, but that
Yep.
it's fair to say that all of these reminders and aspects could be incorporated into their existing follow-up campaigns.
Absolutely. We can either space them out so it's like coming between your different follow-ups, or we can start adding PSs to your current follow-ups. There's a ton of different ways to do it. But as you say, you want to have a communication strategy post-donation anyway. Let's make sure we're also talking about these programs. And with that in mind, that's what this slide is about too, is it's about making it really easy for people. Again, we want to recognize that people are busy and they're not thinking about fundraising as much as we are. So we want to do the work for them. We want to give them the next step that they need to take, make it really easy for them to do that. And just in case anyone's curious, I do have some data on these emails. 53% is the average email open rate of a matching gift email sent within hours of the donation. That is well above industry standard. I think something about 2 times industry standard. And then the other piece is I know some people get a little bit nervous about sending multiple emails. They worry that they're annoying their supporters. But what we see is sending a second email to eligible donors increases matches submitted, goodness, by 48%. So again, people need that reminder. They're busy. Give them a chance to double their impact. Final pieces that I just quickly want to share is there's always more you can do when it comes to these strategies. So again, the ones I just shared are kind of the automated ones, but we can also do some personalized, maybe some strategic personalized outreach. So we can keep track of who is eligible but not submitted and consider additional reminders, maybe a phone call, maybe a text message if we have their phone number type thing, a way of reminding people. And we can even be like, okay, maybe if their gift is above 5,000, then we want to give them the personal reminder. Final, very quick things is just saying that the year end is a really crucial time for matching gifts. A lot of gifts are flowing in, and again, some matches may be expiring. So, this is the perfect time to be following up with people and reminding them of these programs. So train your internal team to be able to talk about this, highlight matching gifts in your appeals, add those PSs, and consider reaching out to match eligible donors retroactively before things expire at the end of the year. That's it for me.
Awesome. I think if I just had one thing to note, like as you're talking about all of this, if anybody in the audience is really thinking, "Oh, we don't have the tools connected in a way that we want to be able to create these automated communications. We don't have the means to be able to do SMS, or we're even, as you talked about, a database earlier. I think this is why we wanted to partner on this webinar, is knowing, right, Double Our Nation has the tools and solutions, and Cloud for Good has the experience of piecing those strategic elements together and making sure your systems are working collaboratively and talking to be able to drive a lot of this home. So it's very much, I see it as a strong partnership, knowing that Cloud for Good has been doing fundraising activities for the last 15 years since our existence, for lack of a way of saying it. And we want to continue to create that impact. And if that was it $4 to $7 billion, I'm going to say our
Yeah.
money seemingly left on the table, is out there. We want to be there to help you actually bring that in, and
Mhm.
maximize that. So to me, everything that you just shared, just kind of, especially this time of year, is like really uplifting, and like there's a lot of opportunity. Um, yeah, so it's all very exciting.
Yeah, I have someone that whenever I talk to her, she's like, "It's free money." And I'm like, "Woohoo!" So it is a very exciting space, I feel like.
Mhm, for sure. Amy,
I,
you back up.
yes,
Yeah. Do we
I am
have?
back. We have a couple of questions, and I will, talk slowly in case folks want to ask some more. Um, but we may only have time for one, so let's start and see how we go. Um, so first question is, does it matter which organization you're with to use double the donation?
Sure. So I would say yes and no. I would say for most nonprofit organizations, employer matching gifts and workplace fundraising opportunities are going to be highly relevant for you. There are a few cases, and that really, and I'm talking about like small organizations, big organizations. I think the time where we talk about, oh, there might be some stickiness is some companies do have requirements when it comes to who is eligible for these programs, and religious and political organizations are the ones that have the most restrictions. That
Mm,
is not to say that it's not at all open for you. It's just worth talking with our team about what's going to be the most effective tools for you. Sometimes, like again, okay, if you have a particular fund that's structured in a certain way, that can be eligible. So again, there's workarounds, but it's just something you'll want to consider more deeply. But for most of you out there, particularly schools, educational organizations, food banks, animal shelters, all of those types of organizations, this is going to be very highly relevant.
Yeah, as you said, it's just free money.
Yeah.
I'm still blown away by that number too. I think Ryan
Mhm.
and I are just like, wow, that's a lot of money left on the table. So,
it
um,
is.
I
There's just the one thing that just popped in my head. I talked about our assets before, and part of me, right, I'm already starting to like solution. How do we get these things to play well together? I'm obviously Salesforce minded, being at Cloud for Good, but it's right. There's been a lot of conversation around AI. There's been a lot of conversation about agents. And in my mind, I think this is where we see opportunity, is that as we are collecting that donor information and as we want to think about surfacing up the right people, my mind continues to go to just asking those questions. How can we leverage AI to really start elevating those individuals and start seeing and maybe even making our own predictions on like if we were to reach out to this population, there is potential for economic growth at our organization from a philanthropic giving perspective. That's where I know our Cirrus agent can come in and actually be able to highlight those individuals. So it's going to bring those members to the top and actually give a frontline fundraiser in that sense some direct action to say this person gave an add a matching gift. We might not want to. We might want to talk to the individual. We might also want to start developing a relationship with that organization, right? So really thinking about how we're stewarding it comprehensively and allowing AI to kind of pull those things out, which may be more efficient than sifting through reports. Reporting is clearly going to be important, but we want to be able to surface those things in a lot of ways. So it'd be exciting to be able to see that happen. And for anybody who's interested in talking more about that, I'd love to chat more.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be cognizant of time.
Yeah.
We are out of it, so let me wrap up if you don't mind, Colleen, going to the next slide. So before we say goodbye to you folks, we're of course leaving you guys with some next steps. On the bottom of your screen, we have a resources tab. It's very aptly named. Please check out some of our resources down there. You can unlock the full potential of a Double the Donation account by joining our dedicated community user conference, which Colleen is virtual, right?
Yep.
You'll hear directly from successful peers and technical experts on how to optimize your platform settings to capture maximum revenue. Register now to ensure you are leveraging the latest features and best practices for matching gift automation. There's also a corporate volunteering summit for nonprofits, again virtual. Discover how to turn volunteer hours into essential revenue through our Focus Corporate Volunteering Summit. We bring together industry leaders to discuss volunteer grants, dollars for doers programs, and strategies for deepening corporate partnerships. Join us to learn how to monetize your volunteer program and build lasting relationships with corporate champions. There's also another virtual summit, the Workplace Fundraising Summit. You can dive into the latest trends in matching gifts, payroll giving, and employee engagement at our flagship Workplace Fundraising Summit. This event features expert-led sessions designed to help you tap into the billions of dollars available, which we talked about, through corporate philanthropy. Secure your spot to gain actionable strategies that will elevate your annual fundraising results and modernize your approach. And Cloud for Good has some more webinars, more virtual events to close out 2025. Next week on Tuesday, December 16th, Ryan and I will be back to talk about simplifying grant management with Salesforce. Wednesday, December 15th, we'll close out the nonprofit year by delving more into Stratus, which we brought up pretty quickly. So if you want to learn more, check that out, how it can streamline your migration from NPSP to Nonprofit Cloud. All of these links that I named can be found in that aptly named resources tab on the bottom of your Zoom or at cloudforgood.com with the number 4. Just want to thank you all for being here. This webinar will be up within the next few days on our channel, and you'll receive an email as well. And if you're watching us there from the future, I'm really happy you found us. If you're watching live, you'll get a survey that pops up immediately after the webinar ends. Please provide feedback. We do read all responses. Thank you to our esteemed guests for joining us, Ryan and Colleen, and we'll see you guys at our next webinar or in-person event soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you all.